guys, it's Glenn from Glenn's Car Collection, and look what BMW dropped off for me to drive for the last 3 days. The 2025 BMW M2. Now the 2025, this car came out here in the United States in model year 2023. So this is actually the 3rd year already of the new M2. Can you believe it? And you got to see this car in person. I think it looks 100 times better in person than it does in the pictures with these angles. I love the front of this car. This is actually called Voodoo Blue, which is an individual color, a $3,000 option. I did a whole video about a month ago of all the different colors for 2025. So LCI stands for Life Cycle Impulse, and the BMW fanboys like me, they just love their LCI cars. If you look at, whatever M car you can think of in the past, the LCI always has the highest resale value. Now this car, sorry with all the big trucks going by, there's a main road here, but somehow my stabilizer, come on stabilizer, you could do it. All right, here we go. All right. So the LCI update, what does it give you? It gives you an extra 20 horsepower. So now you have some 473, 406 foot-pounds of torque with the manual, and 443 with the automatic. This one is the automatic, an 8-speed torque converter. We got silver wheels. Let me know in the comments whether you prefer silver or black. I prefer the black. So it's got the $9,900 option, which gives you carbon buckets and the carbon roof. And we got the 8-speed auto. And this is one of the few automatics that I would actually change the gears with. It's a torque converter, it's not a dual clutch, but it does a pretty good job of imitating the dual clutch. This has the optional new Alcantara flat bottom steering wheel for 2025, and it's actually a fantastic steering wheel. It's the right size, feels good in your hands. These sport buckets, I'm gonna tell you, 3 days of driving, I would get the comfort seats. This is called the Nut Crusher in the middle, and I'll tell you, getting in, this is the actual Nut Crusher right here. All right, so now we're inside the 2025 BMW M2. Check out last Monday's video where I basically do a collection of the car and go over a lot of things. So we'll skip what we went over in that video, and this is the full review after driving it for 3 days and coming back to this exact same spot. So again, we have the automatic transmission. We got this optional Alcantara steering wheel, which I think is worth every penny. It feels really good in my hands. It's the perfect size. I like the flat bottom. Hopefully this Alcantara wears well. I had this in my CLA 45 AMG, and after a year it was like disgusting. All right, so let's start her up. All right, so it's got a good sound. Again, it's a turbocharged 6-cylinder. So the first thing you'll see is this screen here that we could actually use the scroller for, or it's also a touchscreen. So it always starts in efficient mode. Even if I'm driving in Sport or Sport Plus, I notice it's in efficient mode. This car is a very, very stiff car regarding the chassis, so I leave it in comfort mode. It's way too stiff in Sport and Sport Plus. Even in comfort mode, if I own this car, this would be the stiffest car I own, and I own 5 sports cars. You could go into M mode here, which will give you less driver's assistance, so you don't have to worry about like the brake assistance and the warning. At track mode, that stuff will be deactivated. So let's drive in sport here. You have hard buttons for the air conditioning, so I can do this car has optional heated seats and heated steering wheel. I can play around with the fan speed here. So what I'm going to do for our talk, I'm going to make the fan speed very low. And I noticed this even with my E90 M3 back in the day. Unless you put it on max air, you don't always get like the full air. So if it's hot in the car and you want it to be, say, 65, it seems to just blow not that hard unless you put on max air to get to that 65. Maybe it's just me. So we got a backup camera here, good backup camera. Very easy to park. And this car weighs about 3,700 pounds. So believe it or not, it is only 100 pounds lighter than the M3 or M4, which is much bigger, which feel a lot heavier. This is the nimble car, not those. You can play around with the instrumentation here. There's different ways we can do M1 and M2 buttons to save different things. Now you see this big neutral here. When I shut it off, I forgot because I'm so used to manual transmissions. You actually have to hit the park button here. So it actually gave me a warning that the car was in neutral. So now you can scroll through here. So Apple CarPlay was very, very easy to hook up. You can have your phone, personal assistant. Again, we're running 19-inch wheels here. It gives us our tire pressure, so we know they're at 32. We have 4S tires, so we do need a little heat in them. Since this is a brand new car, it gives you the satellite radio. The stereo is fine. It's pretty good. But again, touchscreen, very easy to go. Its throttle's a little jerky in Sport Plus if you come off the throttle, and it'll keep you obviously without shifting that gear. So I prefer the Sport mode. We'll try the Sport steering now. The brakes, we could try it, I guess, in Sport for this drive, see how it is. And then you could play around with the traction control. You do various degrees of traction control. I should shut my phone off. Speaking of that, you have a wireless charger here, which is actually working. Just some Auto Trader alerts. Glenn is always looking to buy cars. And you can play around with your traction control settings. The paddle shifters are very good. They're carbon fiber. And I really like using them. For a torque converter automatic, this will actually convince you. If you didn't know any better, and I told you this was a dual clutch transmission, honestly, I think you would believe me. Now, I've been living with this car for 3 days. It's a very stiff ride, like I said. If I owned this car, this would be the stiffest car I own. You got a good view from the hood here. I think you got good views when you adjust the mirrors. Might be hard to sit in the back behind these bucket seats. I think I'm very snug, so I'm 6 feet tall, 180 pounds. So this really holds me in the seat. What I don't like is the nut cruncher in the middle. And honestly, from using this car for 3 days, this is the actual nut cruncher, getting over this to get in and out of the car. So if it's just a weekend car, so I think honestly, if you got this car in manual, get the Sport buckets, because you got like the visceral experience of the car, and it's probably a weekend car or a semi-daily driver. If you're going to drive this every day in the school pickup line, you're going to commute to bumper traffic, I think the automatic is the way to go. It's actually much better. It drives much better, honestly, with the automatic transmission with the manual. If it was my money, I'd probably still do the manual just because I'm a manual transmission guy, but the third pedal isn't great in this car. The automatic is much better. So I would do automatic in comfort seats, or I would do manual with the Sport buckets. All right, so now we could drive this in manual mode. So we could go over to the right, and now we have drive, and they'll upshift for us. It's an 8-speed torque converter auto. It'll get to 7th gear pretty quickly, and then we could press it again, and now it is in Sport mode, which we'll shift ourselves. All right, so let's drive. Now, that being said, spoiler alert, this car is a blast to drive. And let's see if it's worth $82,000. So in Sport mode, the throttle is a little jerky. So let's get going here. We'll do some acceleration. Now, because it's a rear drive car, it actually will struggle for traction in first gear. It's about 50 degrees today in March when I'm filming this. Actually 49 degrees. Now, this car is a very smooth road, but as you see the camera, it's not. This car is a very stiff suspension. I'm surprised how stiff it actually is. If you follow the YouTube channel, my channel essentially started in 2017 with my 2016 M2. I bought that car brand new in 2016, Long Beach Blue, manual transmission, and the sticker was $54,545. It's in one of the videos, but essentially it was $10 more than my 2011 BMW 1 Series M that I owned, and I owned both of those cars together. I did an M2 versus 1M comparison. I preferred the 1M because it was just crazier and had hydraulic steering instead of electric. Here, the electric steering for a modern car is pretty good. I wouldn't call it good, but it's good for a modern car. I think the worst electric steerings, like when the 5 Series in 2011 came out with electric steering, it was awful. So it's much improved over that, but no car with electric steering, I think, is anywhere near hydraulic steering. Well, we hit some traffic now, and so I'm going to put it into drive, and you see at 41 miles an hour, it already got us into 6th gear. I think driving this car, and radar's going off, that there's KA radar in front of us. Wonder where it is. Must be coming right at us. And there it is. All right, so we're going to make a left here. All right, let's accelerate. I think BMW claims low 4s with this car. I think most have gone about a 3.7 with this automatic transmission. It is definitely faster than the manual. Now, if I compare this with my 2016 M2, this car is much faster. Big horsepower difference. And it's also much stiffer. My M2 was easily a daily driver. There was no reason why it couldn't be a daily driver. This car You know, you probably have to be young to put up with the ride. The ride is a lot stiffer than my 2016 M2. That doesn't make it bad. It has a stiffer ride because it handles great. And I think overall, BMW has the best chassis as far as stiffness and handling. This engine just rockets you out of turns. I mean, you feel like it's 2.5 seconds to 60. That's how fast this car actually is accelerating. I feel like we have to go the opposite of all these cars. Yep. And let's just pray this truck. Oh, God. You know, we're going to go straight then. The last thing we want to do is get behind a slow car. What I'll do is when I get up here, I'll just loop a turnaround. So gas mileage is not that great if you drive it enthusiastically like I do. We'll get a chance to do another acceleration here. Let's go down to a stop and do it. All right. Wow. And it's so much fun because it's a rear drive car. It really makes a difference. Yes, the all-wheel drive would probably make it half a second to a second faster, but I don't think we'd have anywhere near as much fun. You know, the downside of owning a car like this is exactly this, where, you know, the speed limit is 50 and everybody in front of you drives 25. Now, if I was in an SUV, everybody would be going 50, but because I'm not, you can see the difference. Colors, I think $3,000 for Voodoo Blue is a fantastic option. Usually individual colors are around $5,000. I know Porsche, it's like $12,500. I think it's even pushing $15,000 now. And it could go up to $25,000 for special order colors. So I think if you spend $3,000 to spec one of these cars in this color, for example, or Java Green or one of the other colors, and I did a whole video of it about a month ago on the channel, you can see all the colors. I think you're going to get most of that $3,000 back. Especially if you do, you know, the sport buckets. Me personally, I would go with the comfort seats. I think if I was just using this as a weekend car and a special occasion car, then of course the sport buckets. But I don't think I would do that as a daily. All right, so we got 50 miles an hour speed limit, and they can't go over, for some reason, 38 miles an hour. Now, you do have a heads-up display. It doesn't work with polarized sunglasses, so I had to take my sunglasses off to actually see this heads-up display. I think you can adjust it a little higher. Right now, it's right off the hood. So when you go to racing school, they tell you, make sure you have high eyes, look over here, so you see things happening. It slows everything down on the racetrack, not over your hood like most drivers do. Where do they put the heads-up display? Right over the hood, because I guess they feel that's where most people are looking. There's a light up here. We're going to go the opposite of this guy, because I don't think I can take being behind him for another second. What are you doing? So he figures he's going to make up his mind last minute. All right, so we're going to make a left here. And that guy is reading his phone or something. All right, so here we go on some windy roads. Now I'm shifting manually. I think this car, even sometimes PDK cars or dual clutch cars, I don't think they shift that well in sport mode or any of the modes. So I typically, reluctantly, leave them in automatic mode because then it shifts better. You don't really get anything from clicking, like say a first gen PDK from 2009 for Porsche. Here, I actually feel like I'm doing something. I'm running up and through the gear. So here we're going, let's go 4, 3rd, see if we can get into 2nd, and now we're going 3rd, 4th. And of course, because it's an automatic, it'll save you from yourself. You can't over rev it. But it's a lot of fun going on these windy roads and shifting gears. I haven't been on this road in a while. This is still March, first time driving this road since the winter. Now again, this is a shorter wheelbase car than an M3 or M4, so it's going to react to the bumps, which is great on a tight, windy road, but it's actually can be worse on some sweepers here where the car can be a little unsettled. Now this road is in the middle of nowhere, but you see people jogging. You could drive this road 20 miles without seeing a house, and there are people jogging on this road. Where did they come from? This car gets a lot of looks. I think a new BMW M2 will always get looks, but I think on this color gets even more looks. There's people been giving me high fives, thumbs up, beeping at me, mainly from BMW owners, but there's a lot of us out there. Now, I was very tempted to weave in and out of lanes on the highway, I'll tell you that. And I'm sure people are like, oh, that's a typical BMW owner, and I probably am. So, do I use my blinkers? Most of the time. This car comes with free refills for your blinker fluid. All right, so I think we're stuck behind this car, so I'll probably end the video here. So special thanks to BMW North America for providing the car and a full tank of gas and 3 whole days for me to drive it, which I've enjoyed it tremendously. I took this car on showings yesterday. I took my kid to and from school, and they loved it. And this has been a fantastic experience. Should you buy an M2 over an M3, M4? Well, we're going to find that out again in a couple of weeks, maybe even next week. I'll do a video for you of the M4 CS. We're going to get that, and we'll see, now that I'm having these cars a week apart, which is better. I'm betting that I would probably like the M2 because I prefer handling over outright speed. I prefer a car that has nimbleness, and for 3,700 pounds, which is not light, but is probably average this day. I think my M340 was 3,800 pounds. This car is very nimble for a 3,700 pound car, and that's the way you need to look at it. This car is very nimble for a 3,700 pound car. That's really, I think, the way you need to look at it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what car you want me to review next. Leave it in the comments. Any questions on the M2, please leave in the comments and I will answer them. And like, share, and subscribe. And you won't want to miss what I'm going to get next, which will be the M4 CS, which could be next Monday's video, if not the Monday after. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.